it's hard to explain a book like this. And I was asked to explain it any number of times, and actually the introduction to the book is my thoughts on that. And I wrote a little poem at the end of the introduction, and I'll read that.
Okay.
Can I catch a firefly? Put the wind in a bottle? You asked me to explain, and there is only mist. Going to a place where there are more than answers. Death, a myth.
Nice.
So it's a bit powerful at the end, and I don't expect people to believe me on that last line. It's a bit spiritual viewpoint. But the book is about that. It's about transcending the physical and going where death is not. Death is not in your imagination, because that is a constant creation. So as long as you can create something, you're not going to be dead. It's simplicity.
I put together the book trailer for this book, and my children 9 and 11, they were just hovering around me, and they started looking at the pictures and looking at all the poetry, and they were so intrigued, and which makes me think I would like to maybe donate some of these books to our school and have that available for all the other children to look at, because it's so bright and colorful and happy, and it really takes you out of the dim reality we're living in these days. Just kind of lets your imagination run wild, and just gives you, puts a smile on your face. That was the effect that my kids have had. So I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have to admit that it put a smile on my face too.
Well,
I've gone through this book several times myself.
yeah.
Would you like to maybe show our audience the hard copy of the book? Do you have it nearby?
No, we have the soft cover here.
Yes, cover.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to flip through it and.
Well, it's pretty much what you showed. I'm just going to do an arbitrary this, and this kind of significant, this China, because Chinese emperors used to paint, and in fact there's a whole bunch of famous ones. So it's not it's simple and fun, but there's a message too.
It's going to be a hardcover too, but we haven't. Yeah, we're going to get that soon.
Yeah.
And there was here is one. Well, you see, I feel like if I'm going to show it, I should show you the original. Okay. The originals are quite small, and I'm holding up one of them. It's in the book. Wait. I hope you can see it like this.
Yeah.
And and it's got bits of silk, bits of watercolor. It has a little drawing. It's a real, I guess you would say it's a real collage, but it's put together to work. And I can show you something else here. Let's see. Okay, here is one I am particularly fond of. I don't know if you can see it well or not.
Yes.
Yeah, and it has a bit of etching, watercolor, and anyway, I can speak about it, but I don't want to talk too long. It's called A Lost Friend, and the friend is there and kind of in the tree, which is a watercolor, with his dog walking, and the lady is looking for him. So the whole thing becomes becomes like a story, you know.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I have to just say that Vera is very easy to dialogue with because she doesn't have a critical bone in her body as far as what I write. And so there's no like, oh, you didn't put in the dog and I wanted that. It's just whatever comes, and that's the way you dialogue. You don't comment on the other person's work. You just write or paint or whatever you're going to do. And there's really no revising during this process, or very little. That comes much later, because that kind of messes it up. Or you might add something that the other person didn't have in their work if you revise it. So it is like moving forward a thread. You know, you take whatever part of the thread you want.
Yes.
It's completely free. It's whatever you want to do. That's what I tell my students, my little poetry students. I teach poetry to little kids, and I say, go with your first idea, and your idea is right. And right is funny. It's a homonym, right and right. WRITE and RIGHT. I like to point that out. And some of these kids have come out of, even in a really good private school, they might have critical thoughts of themselves because they can't spell or something.
Yes.
But they have to get the feeling that whatever they do is right and it's their idea. And that's the same with any artist. That came from an improvisational class I took years ago, improvisational acting. And you can't criticize the other person. Whatever, you always say yes. Whatever the other person does, you say yes, and you go with it. And that's kind of a germ of dialoguing that I learned early on, and it became part of my fabric.
Yes. What would you say is kind of a hard thing, like the hardest part of dialoguing with another creative? What would that look like to you?
I didn't get the
Like
question.
a really like the hardest part of dialoguing with another creative. What is that like to you?
The hardest.
Is there a hard part? Is there
not doing it?
Not doing it.
Not doing it. Not doing it. I mean, there's nothing hard about it. That's the thing. It's really effortless for me. So I can always write a poem. I mean, even if the person is writing about some subject I have no reality on whatsoever, I can still find one word in the poem that I know what that is. Because it's a kind of total freedom. You can do whatever you want to do. You're not going to be criticized. You're never, you might be criticized much, much later when you decide to publish the poem and the editor says, this is talking to Allie Rigby, you did a wonderful job of editing this manuscript. Thank you, Allie, if you're listening. And at that point, years later, after you've written hundreds and hundreds of poems, then you can accept, I think I could pair that word. I could take that word out. Maybe insert that other word. That's okay. I agree with that. And but you don't do that right at the beginning, or, you don't do that with children, certainly. You never, ever comment or tell them to revise their work. If they want to revise it, great.
Yeah.
But that squelches them when you do that. So when you say what's hard, I start thinking, what is hard? Not doing it.
Not doing is the hard part. I see. That's wonderful to not have that fear of being criticized. I know a lot of writers in my circle that it stops them. Their own being stops them, because every time they write something, they have to second guess themselves, and then nothing comes out, and then ends up
a complete trap.
It's
and it's cultivated in children when they combine creative writing with correcting the grammar and the spelling. Those two are separate subjects.
Right.
You can teach grammar and you can teach spelling and handwriting and all that, but as a separate subject. In creative writing class, you just,
You just
whatever comes out. You need help with spelling, you get it from the teacher.
right.
But you never tell a kid, oh, I'm not sure. What you might say, I didn't understand that, and get them to clarify it.
Yes. Well, we had another question. Are there any tips for people who might want to try dialoguing? Or Vera, even creating art like you are creating, doing collages. Do you have any tips about that?
Well, definitely what Alice said, don't criticize, and that makes the dialogue flow because you're not afraid that somebody's going to go and say and shoot it down. Says, what the hell? Why did you put this strange shape over here? It doesn't work. Well, how are you going to reply to that? You get your boxing gloves and go to punch the person out. So yes, I think that's what Alice said is a great advice. You let it flow, and there is always something beautiful in creation on either side, and you go for that. You take that and you expand on it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, just ask if you know a poet that, I don't know if this person is a poet or an artist, but if you find another poet that you really like their work and you want to dialogue with them, just say, hey, I have this idea about dialoguing. Would you like to write a poem? And then you do set up ground rules. You say, okay, here's the rule. No editing during the process, or you make sure you don't get tangled in that web.
Right.
And you just flow and you say, okay, I'm not going to say anything about your work. I'll just reply to it. And then you'll go where it goes.
You just follow the path and see where it leads you.
Yeah.
But
Right.
you always compliment something that you especially like. The compliments are most definitely okay.
Yeah, if you really like a poem, you say, wow, that was great.
Yeah.
The feedback builds. I think it builds the story and keeps you going in a certain direction. Negative feedback kind of holds you back. So that's wonderful. Yeah, that's a great tip. Great tip. Is there any other final thoughts that you would like to share with our listeners today?
Well, definitely. It's about Elisa Press. You have accepted our manuscript, and it definitely makes us feel valuable, and the manuscript valuable. So we thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm very grateful to Elisa Press and Katja Haj and for embracing our vision, basically right away. The minute she saw the manuscript, it was off and running. She has a really strong team of editors, PR people, designers. Everyone on board has just been doing a stunning job on the book. And I would also, go to the website to Elisa Press, because that beautiful, gorgeous video that Nadia made is on there. That's a good way to introduce the book to people. Send them to that video or share the video on Facebook if you know how to do that. I really want to give a special thanks to Cindy Wren. I think she's here today, hopefully, and she introduced the book to the publisher, unbeknownst to me, because she saw my manuscript because I had shown it to her, and she introduced it, and that's where we got off and running. And I want to give a special thanks to her for providing that link. It means everything to us, Cindy. Thank you. And
thank you.
I think
go ahead. Just like to thank my son, Sky Dayton, who is a wonderful supporter of me and helped me over the years. And I want to thank my husband, Dennis Perot, and all of my grandchildren, my wonderful grandchildren. I feel very warmly loved. And so I just wanted to say that too, because, you know, if your experiences in your life do reflect on your work, I think. And
Wonderful. Thanks so much.
All right. Okay. Well, then, likewise, I would like to thank my son, who's been extremely supportive, and my husband, although he's not receiving it, but he's been great all our relationship.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'd like to mention that you can find the book, you can purchase the book in any bookstore right now, paperback and hardcover. And Ali will be posting the links in the chat board for you guys. You can link straight to the Amazon, to Barnes & Noble, and just purchase the book. We also have a landing page on our website. It's lsrpress.com/Beyond Birds and Answers. And Ali will post this as well. And you guys can go there. You can take a look at more information about the book, the author and the artist's biographies, and all sorts of other information. So there we go. We also want to mention that we now have an interview that has been posted to our website, to lsrpress.com, an interview with Alice and Vera, where they get to answer a few questions. And so we hope you guys can also go and view that. And let's see. Yes, honest reviews are always welcome. They're very highly appreciated if you can give honest reviews of the book. I know that we've already sold a few copies before this launch, but whoever can contribute with their own honest review, that would be very, very appreciated. And I think that's about it, unless we have any more questions. Let me just ask. I think that's it. Just wanted to wrap up and say thank you again to Alice and Vera for joining us. Thank you for our audience for listening and joining us in this book launch. And we really hope you get to enjoy the book and let us know what you think. So thank you so much, and everybody have a lovely afternoon.
you're very welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.